Hey, my name is Trevor Smith. Welcome to Full Burn, where we kick some tires, light some fires, and interview awesome leaders across the space and defense industry. Today, we have a little special episode, a little outside the normal. I am with Neil Stevens of Price Forbes, an insurance guy.
Yeah, I'm the head of space at Price Forbes. I've been doing space insurance for about 30 years. Delighted to have met Trevor. One, I think, the highlights of the career. We're in Salt Lake City at Small Sat, and we're in a Lamborghini. We're just about to go out on the streets and have some fun.
Not just any Lamborghini, Neil. I wouldn't just give you a boring, normal Lamborghini. We are in a very special Huracan Performante Spider, which is basically a track car, but road legal. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's this is definitely reminiscent of everything I've seen on Top Gear, so I'm looking forward to the journey as a Brit.
We don't have a private track, we don't have a Stig, but we'll have to make...
You can be the Stig.
But I'll do the next interview with a helmet on.
I think you should.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go. That's a great idea.
But Stig never talked. That was a problem.
Well, that's true.
I'll be the talking Stig.
Yeah, but maybe you could do a recorded interview or something like that. Ask the questions, and your guests can just answer whilst they're crapping themselves.
That would make for some entertaining video. All right, so Neil, tell me, who is Neil Stevens? Give me a little background.
Yeah, so I got into space by accident, really. I was studying at university. I needed to fill out my timetable. The last subject on the law curriculum was space insurance, and I picked it. That was 30 years ago. And I never looked back since.
You just randomly picked space something in university?
Yeah, it was literally a random subject. I needed to fill up the timetable, and that was the last place I could get to. And I've made a 30-year career out of it, so it's worked out well.
Well done, Silver.
Thank you.
Well done. So since university, you've been in the space industry in the insurance specifically, or other parts?
No, just space insurance. So it's always been that, and now I'm having the best time of my career. I think it's 25 years of looking after geostationary satellites, and then as the new space sector's developed, I've been working in that. Price Forbes, we're dedicated to working with new space companies with a particular slant towards working with companies that serve defense and government purposes. And it's, I don't know, every day's a challenge, every day's a learning day. It's the best fun I've had for the whole of my career. I'm really enjoying it. I can't see myself retiring at this stage. And you get to do things like this as well.
So my wife is in the insurance business. And I told her, I said, hey, I met this guy, he's in London, he's in space insurance. And she's like, there's insurance for space?
Yeah. And
she works at like a $5 billion company. And so a lot of people would never think to like insure something going to space.
Yeah.
Like, just give me this little like industry background. Like, how long has insurance for space vehicles, satellites, whatever, how long has that existed?
Since about 1977. Okay. So it really goes back quite a long way, with first sort of real commercial missions starting in probably about the 80s. We've seen the space shuttle recover stranded satellites in orbit. That was a big program that was done. They were brought back down, refurbished and resold. Really, I think sort of the commercialization of space, though, has really kicked on since around about 2013, when Elon's development of the Falcon 9 launch vehicle really sort of kicked on, reduced the cost to access space, and we're now seeing the expansion and commercialization of space. Every single day it's different. I talk to people, I talk to children at schools and stuff, and they can't believe what's going on. We've got 3 clients that are doing projects or planning projects on the moon already.
Wow.
There's no way I'm retiring anywhere soon.
It's just too much fun. Are you like the godfather of space insurance,
no,
self-proclaimed? Or,
I think there might be a few hit contracts out on me for the God if you call me the Godfather. But no, it's I've been around a while, but certainly not the oldest. But yeah.
But you basically seen the space industry grow from inception to where it is today.
Absolutely. I think it's really been since about 2010, 2013, it's really kicked on. And probably more so in the last 5-7 years, the commercial, I don't know, just the commercialization of space is really sort of upon us. There's new ideas coming out all the time. The idea of mining on the moon it seems absurd, but it's a reality. You know, there's all sorts of things going on. We are fortunate, I think, doing on the insurance side of things, that we get access to learn what's going on right at the front end, because it's usually one of the first questions that comes up. You know, if you want to raise finance, you need insurance, because people aren't going to back you unless they've got some way to recoup their losses if things go horribly wrong. So the two are inextricably linked, and you know, that, as I say, means that we get access to seeing what's going on at a very early stage usually.
Well, you were kind enough to invite me over to London, and you know, the space industry, there's a lot of firsts happening, and in order to like write an insurance policy, I will pause for a second because we're about to have a little fun. So have you gone very fast in like exotic cars before?
No. I've got 2 pairs of pants on though.
Oh, good. Yeah, you might need at least one. Hang on. There we go.
Yeah, that was pretty quick.
Yeah. All right. So that's a Lamborghini for you.
I quite enjoyed that. I'd equate that to looping the loop in a plane.
Yeah. Pants are unharmed. Just confirm.
Yep.
We're good. Okay.
Yeah,
all
we're
right.
good.
Good. So my mission is not accomplished yet.
No, absolutely. I think you need to push the boundaries.
Well, Utah has a state law. I can't go over let's call it triple digits. So I'm limited in the fun that we can have.
I think acceleration shouldn't be a inhibitor though. So yeah, I'm up for that.
We didn't break any speed limits just now. No. So back to you hosting me in London. So there's mining on the moon and asteroid landing and all sorts of firsts for space. How do you set a precedent and underwrite a first type of mission, right? Like, so you introduced me to a bunch of underwriters who work for syndicates for Lloyd's of London. And if I get the terminology wrong, please correct me.
Sure.
But like, I met a lot of them, really smart. And how do you like analyze this new mission that's never happened before, and how do you underwrite the risk?
Well, I think so, like the first.
Or do you close your eyes and hope for the best? Or?
No, I think there's quite science to it. So when you came over, it's a great opportunity. We weren't looking to actually place any insurances, to look to introduce the fantastic products that you've got at Atomic 6, and to introduce those to underwriters so they're familiar with them when they see them on the spacecraft that they'll be insuring, so they don't have to dig down into it. And as you know, you've got very good reception. The deployable solar arrays were very well received. It's the obvious benefits that you see from that: reduction in cost to launch, easier sort of systems for deployment, and the ability to be able to retract in a situation where perhaps you're going into a debris cloud. So there's those sorts of things, and it's education as much as one thing. But when we move on to actually framing the risk or trying to identify or to place the risk, it's really a case of breaking the exposure down. So you look at different parts of things. The worst case for us would be to have some sort of an exclusion, but we're fortunate to work
what does that mean? Just
when an underwriter says we're not going to cover something.
Okay, got
but
it.
we're fortunate that we work with a lot of great insurance companies like Atrium, Convex, Global, Beasley, Hamilton, and others, and they have a very collaborative and commercial approach to framing the risks. So it's that working in partnership, making sure that people are informed, that the presentations are done well, to frame the exposures, so that people understand, give them comfort, and then it's down to the underwriter to set the pricing, and then it's obviously down to us to try and adjust the pricing so that it's at an affordable rate for the client. Sometimes we may have to sort of mediate and find a happy medium for both parties, but that's the nature of the job, and that's I think the skills of being a good middleman is to find a balance so that both sides feel that they've got a good deal. If both parties walk away and they feel they can squeeze could have squeezed a little bit more out of the deal, then that's probably a good deal for both sides.
Yeah, if you leave 5% of that on the table for both parties, everybody walks away.
Everybody's happy.
The term kept popping up during our educational presentations in London. risk mitigant.
Yeah.
Just kept coming up and up again. As I understand it, solar array deployment is one of the biggest reasons for a insurance claim.
Yeah, it is, and your mechanisms are very, with great respect, simplistic. I don't mean that in saying that they're simple.
To caveat, I'm not trying to plug my company, but it's a big problem for space.
No, it absolutely is. But then the other thing is you've got that cost benefit in terms of the reduction in kilos
watts per kilo.
to launch per kilo. Price per kilo to launch rather. So you've got that benefit as well. So if you've got those two things, that's a risk mitigant, and then you just take on something else. At the moment, we've got the development, commercialization of space. With companies looking to service satellites. If you're able to retract the solar arrays, that makes your surface area smaller. So if you're interacting with another spacecraft, close proximity operations, and you've got smaller surface areas, that's again a reduction in risk.
Safer, yeah.
Exactly. So it's a win-win both sides, and I'm very happy to have that opportunity to introduce your technology to the underwriters. It's something we want to do more of.
Thank you for that, and it should be done more of. I've recently been presenting to some prospective investors, and I show them the letters of support that you sent for our efforts, and the general consensus was, wow, I've never heard of this type of collaboration. We should do more of this, right? So like any kind of sensors, risk mitigation, structures, whatever it is, I think more of that educational activity to the underwriters should happen.
Yeah, we've been planning to, we've spoken to a few companies about doing exactly this sort of thing and got very good feedback. We were hoping to do something in June, but pressures of work have just got in the way, but it's still very much on the horizon and something we want to do to demonstrate capabilities for different companies and to showcase them. There's nothing in it for us apart from, we've introduced something which helps people on their journey, and hopefully that will reciprocity come back to us and they'll place their insurance.
I actually think there is something in it for you, because as you just said, you're negotiating to try and find a good middle ground. So if you have a more educated underwriter, your job becomes easier.
Absolutely. Right?
So it's not just a selfless act. You're trying to help bring that middle ground from an educational perspective.
Yeah.
So two-part question. I'll start with the first. What is the largest public insurance claim that you could speak of?
Well, I could speak of it because it doesn't concern one of our clients, but I won't identify the party. But I mean, I think the biggest single event claim is about $450 million. I think one of the things that would be worth mentioning is that at the moment, the insurance market, the capacity in the insurance market, we've got about 600 million is available if all insurers wrote their maximum line. But accessible is a lot less than that. So if you assume that everybody's not going to write their maximum line, it would be a stretch to make everybody write 2/3 of their maximum line. So realistically, if the 600 million is the total maximum, then probably 300 million's the realistic top out level. I mean, you might creep above that by using different mechanisms. And one of the things that needs to happen, because the projects as they advance, we start developing solutions for, say, for example, Starship. Starship, just a rough guess, is capable of carrying probably $2 to $4 billion worth of assets.
Wow.
So
single launch.
Yeah, no, that's a single event. So there's nowhere near enough capacity in the market. So we need to find different solutions, not just small sort of bolt-ons and things like that. We need to be able to access much bigger regions of capacity, and that's something we're working on at the moment to be able to do that in a scalable way. So watch this space on that one.
Well, I know you did want to mention it, but it is public, and I'll keep it generic. But that $450 million loss, as I understand it, was actually a failed solar array. Was the primary reason for the claim is a failed deployment of the solar array.
Exactly. So
that's the reason of the thing that I'm working on.
Yeah. So the most in-orbit losses tend to have a power consequence or a fuel consequence. And power, I'd say, is definitely the most. I think I've seen statistics. It's around about 30% of all losses relate to power.
What is, and I think we talked about this in London, but what is the number one reason for claims? What's like the number one reason that typically gets written off for a claim?
Well, it's changing a bit now. I mean, so it used to, I'd say, probably about 15, 20 years, no, probably 20, 25 years ago, it would be losses on launch. There were very few launches. There were some that weren't as good as others, some that were very good. We obviously the select vehicle of choice at the moment is the Falcon 9. It's a fantastic reputation. They're launching so frequently we can't keep up with the numbers. Every time I write a presentation, I give the presentation, I have to change the number. It's not 500 anymore, it's 506, and that's 2 days later or something like that. So but I think it's in terms of the 2023 losses, they were all in orbit losses, so there's less in terms of launch losses and more in terms of operational losses. And that's, most of those are coming from the large satellites, so the satellites that operate in GEO, which is slightly sort of, I think, sort of for the new space sector, they're coming into this now, rates are up, and they're paying for some of those losses because the rates in the market have obviously gone up. The underwriting is across a whole book of business, but it would be nice to see some differentiation, maybe some insurers looking to the idea of setting up a book that's dedicated to new space risks only. That would easily slot in with products as well. So
what was, like, in your mind, like the number one reason there was a claim? Is it like propulsion went out, or there was space debris, or solar array deployment, or like avionics failure? Like what's kind of the number one reason for a claim?
Propulsion and power losses due to, if solar panels getting strikes, which affects the ability to generate power.
Debris strikes.
Small debris strikes, but debris, I think my prediction would be that that's more likely to become a bigger problem. We're launching more into space. Sustainability in space is an important sort of factor to keep in mind, and that's something with my good friend Joanne Wheeler that we're very keen to like.
Hey
promote.
Joanne.
Hi Joanne, just for you. That we're keen to promote and see good practices done in space to reduce the opportunities to increase debris and make sure that space is available for future generations and future projects.
So I don't want to be mistaken. What I throughout that day when we were talking, one of the things I thought was discussed, if there wasn't really a clear identifiable reason for the claim, that space debris, MMOD tends to just take the bucket, right? If you don't know what it is, we'll put it in that bucket. Yeah. Right? Is that fair?
So, you have what it comes into the assessment of what's caused the loss comes down to the ability to get telemetry.
Yeah.
So, say for example, you lost all telemetry, then you've not. You can't determine what happened, and I think there was a satellite recently, had that incident. I think the theory would be it'd be down to some sort of debris strike or an internal explosion of equipment, something like that, something arcing out. But you can't know the cause. But the nature of the cover is extremely wide. It's essentially all risks cover. So when somebody goes out and offers a reason for the claim, then it's demonstrate why that's the cause of the loss, and that's what we try to do.
Okay.
So it's not, but the cover is extremely wide, generally speaking.
So you're familiar with the term Kessler syndrome?
I am indeed.
So quick sidebar, I actually called Don Kessler himself, and I spoke to him about 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
It was they say never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
I was so glad I called him. He was such a cool guy. But yeah, Kessler syndrome, I think, will continue to be an issue that the industry needs to be concerned about. He actually gave a great example. So we have a perfect example that we can see right now. The rings around Saturn are a perfect example of just orbits getting a bunch of debris. And if we're not careful, that's what Earth's orbit we might end up with rings around Earth, which would be a very bad thing. Anyway, I thought that was a cool observation. So on the customer side, the other thing, let's stop that question with a good note. Give me a great example of where you came in, found insurance, and everything was awesome. And you can name the customer if you want or whatever, but like hey, we had this opportunity, it was a really unique challenge, and we found a solution.
Yeah, I think I can think of a number of different examples, but I think one of the things we like to pride ourselves on is innovation. Without going into too much detail, it's great when you can go and speak to a client and say, okay, if it's with another broker, so your broker, if you go and tell them you want to buy a potato, they'll sell you a potato. If you came to us and said, we want to buy a potato, we'd say, how would you like it sliced? Do you want it fried? Do you want it mashed? Do you want cheese on it? Have you thought about cutting the potato in half and selling it to somebody else? Yeah, we'd come up with a lot of different solutions. One of the things that I would say that I'm really very proud of at the moment is the idea that we're working with other companies, not insurance companies and not people that sell insurance, but providing services that we know our clients need, and working with these other companies to say, look, if you set your pricing, we'll go to this customer and we'll say, how about we sell the insurance, and by the way, we can get this supplier to also commit to fixing their prices for a 24-month period. Okay. So it's more than just, do you want to buy a policy, buy the policy and drive through and would serve the next customer. It's much more about innovation, finding solutions, and actually going above and beyond what we do. I mean, or what is normal. So
you're using your Rolodex to help your customer solve problems that are not even in the insurance industry.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away to the competitors.
No, it's fine.
Because they'll probably watch this too.
I did that, it's ironic. I did that when I was a commercial real estate broker.
Yeah.
I would talk about everything except commercial real estate. What do you need? Oh, you need a marketing person. You need blah, blah, blah. To try and connect them with every possible way I could add value.
Add value is what it's all about completely. That is the name of the game. That's the differentiator. Not just, do you want to buy a policy? Thank you very much. Move on. Who's next? It's a bit like cheeseburger sales.
Yeah. So what is, if you can say, what is the most unique mission you've insured? Unique, fun, weird, quirky,
I'll take a pass on that one because I think one of the things that we're not supposed to do is be customer specific. But we've had some very challenging risks that we placed. We use our network to make sure that we get things done, and we go out there, we give it 100%. We've never come away from something and not being able to do something.
Yeah.
So that's cryptic enough, I hope.
Well, I ask certain questions, and because the space industry is so small, if you mention, oh, we're doing XY, we're insuring this XYZ idea, we kind of all know who it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I'm asteroid mining as an example. There's a handful of asteroid mining companies, and you can kind of figure out who it is. So totally fine there.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then, sort of other things as well. We don't just insure the space risks. So right from the moment the contract's signed and you start cutting metal to put the spacecraft together.
Oh, okay.
So we do the assembly, integration, and testing. If you need to ship your satellite to a testing facility, we can cover that as well. We can do stock throughput, storage if you've got lots of components on the shelf. Cover for transit to the launch site, cover at the launch site, launch through to separation, delivery to orbit if you're on a tug or something like that, and then completion of in-orbit testing. The whole mission is completely covered. We adapt to everything. So we've got the full panacea, and I think when you also include the extra bits that we can add in to sort of add value to the proposition, then I think we've got probably in some areas the most outstanding offering going. I'm proud to say that.
Yeah, that's so differentiation for your firm. Can you give us the characteristics of an ideal customer to insure, and like who should actually buy space insurance? Because insurance is probably not right for certain missions, and some of them that like it really makes sense. So maybe give us like an idea of that ideal customer who really should look at getting space insurance.
Sure. Well, we've got a particular focus on customers that are working with Western governments, Western military services. One of the things that we identified early on was that we didn't want to help China advance their capabilities. So we took the decision not to work with Chinese companies, manufacturers, launch service providers, or insurers. And that's been, I think, quite an important step for us. Wow. It keeps us on side with the people that we want to work with, and it's important to them.
So you're picking a team.
We are picking a team,
okay.
And we're loyal to it. We want to make sure that we do the best for those people and provide the best services. If we can enhance the capabilities as well, all the better. So that's one of the things we are sort of very. Are we going for another burn here?
Yeah, but I got a red light. I don't know.
Red.
It is red, but like, am I supposed to stop somewhere? I didn't see a line.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I don't think there's a camera, so you can probably go for it.
There
we work with anybody. So university students often want to start off with sounding rockets. We wouldn't turn anybody like that way. It's all part of the process. Tomorrow's university student that's working on a sounding rocket is a client that might be launching a constellation of 300 satellites in 6 years' time, because they move that quickly. We like constellations. We find solutions that are cost effective for clients. Everything's about global coverage now. We work with launch service providers, so really the full panacea. But we do have a strong focus on working with companies that have got contracts with the military and the governments.
So let's just keep a generic policy for the question. You've got $1 million satellite.
Yep.
And we want to do a 3-year mission in LEO.
Yep.
How would you insure that, and like what would the customer expect to pay to insure that $1 million, assuming there's no crazy risk, right?
Yeah. So you'd start off with the rate for the launch. And you break it down into phases. So the launch flight is one aspect. Then you've got
getting the spacecraft to the launch site.
That's just the launch flight.
Okay.
So everything before launch is pre-launch. So that's the transits and all those sorts of things. But once you have intentional ignition, the launch phase is the flight of the rocket. Then you separate, and then you've got different phases beyond that. So there's the acquisition of the satellite through to completion of in-orbit testing, and then cover beyond those periods. And they break down into slightly different levels. So if you were talking about, say, a satellite in geostationary orbit, the launch service cost is probably about a third of the overall cost at the moment.
So $1 million bird, you're paying $350,000.
Yeah, something. So that's the sort of ballpark.
Okay.
But then, in-orbit acquisition, probably the same again. And then if you went through to 365th day of cover, probably the same again. So it's about a third. But it's difficult to put precise numbers on it, because it obviously depends on the type of launch vehicle. Sure. So Falcon 9's the favourite at the moment. That's coming in at around about 3.5% would be the net rate that you pay. Then again, it's very specific to the equipment that's being launched. So if you've got something that's got redundancy throughout, then I don't know, you probably go up to like 10% and beyond. Maybe even if it's something really new and novel, maybe even up to 20%. But then we've got mechanisms for dealing with that. So we'd speak to the insurers, and if they come up with an extremely high rate, we'd want a discount if the mission is successful. So we'd factor those sorts of things. So you get a return.
So you get sort of a rebate?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's quite a successful strategy. I think the underwriters can see the benefit in that. They charge the high rate. If it goes wrong, they get the high rate. But again, if it's successful, then everybody's happy. We get a slight discount and it comes back down. That's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's successful for quite a few missions, and certainly we've tucked a few away on that sort of basis. It's all about being creative, really. There's other mechanisms that you can use to do things. It's just about being creative, innovative, and finding solutions for people's problems.
If you had a magic wand, what's the first biggest thing that you would change about the space insurance industry?
It's got to change from the way it's been running for the last.
If you were the godfather of
23 years.
Industry.
Yeah, so I'll address that absolutely head on. So we've had a situation for probably about 28 years or so, where the brokers have always chipped away at the pricing. The pricing's just gone down and down and down. We've had verticalization of insurance placements. All that that's actually done is achieved the situation where you're almost like bankrupting the insurance community, the people that take the risk.
Yeah.
So on the new space risks, what we try and do is spread it around more. So people aren't taking big lines. So if you had, say, a 2 million insurer, you could probably tuck that away with one insurer that write 100%. I'd say no, don't do that, because if there's a loss, you, Mr. Insurer, have now got a $2 million loss on your book. Maybe your income's only $10 million, so you've got 20% loss on a small satellite, or across your book straight away. If, on the other hand, we spread that around, maybe between 5 insurers, just taking a 20% share each, that's a much less. So you're not going to make so much premium, but it's not going to destabilize the market. The new space market needs to be stable. If it gets blown up in the way that let's call it the traditional space market has been, it won't be there. And if it's not there, you won't get investment.
Yeah.
So it needs to be stabilized. It needs to be responsible activity. It's not always a race to the bottom. That's great, but you'll have a cheap price today and no insurance tomorrow. So it's a balance. We want to make sure that the pricing's affordable and available, but it needs to be affordable to be available.
Right.
So again, that comes back to being a good middleman, mediating, and not just like working like Costco, pilot high, sell it cheap. There won't be a market. We need to change things, and there's a lot of people saying things need to change. I don't see much in terms of activity coming back with solutions to try and do it. So I feel like I'm the Lone Ranger on that front. But
what you're saying makes sense to me. So I don't have the magic wand.
No, but that would be my absolute, if there was a fairy stepped out tomorrow or a genie popped out of a bottle of Coke, that would be what I'd ask for.
Well, and I think you also told me you'd love to see a bigger pool of a financial pool resource to go fund all these all these flights. Like, there's not enough capacity on the insurance money side to actually insure what's being flown today.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a problem that's down the road. I don't know how far down the road, but if we don't start sort of looking at solutions for that now, we'll hit the buffers. There's another one similar to that. So if you go to the insurance market, a lot of engineers, satellite engineers have become underwriters. There's not a lot of mining engineers that are doing, that are in this. Well, there's none, basically. There's not a lot of nuclear engineers that are doing space risk.
Yeah.
So we need to find ways to bring those skills together, because I think one of the other things is, mini reactors is probably, mini reactors is going to be the thing for slight long-term travel.
Yeah.
Or slight distant travel. It's also sort of very reliable sort of source of power. So, and I think it was, I can't remember who made the announcement. I don't know if it was NASA, but they intend to put a nuclear reactor on the moon. I don't know what the time frame was. So we need those skills to be able to, because a space underwriter that's familiar with space, space risks doesn't know how a mining truck works, or what the robotics are that are needed to operate it, and that will all be done by fly-by-wire. I mean, it's laser communications and controlling the mining equipment from the Earth. So there's a lot of things sort of going on. We need to be looking at it, thinking about it, and finding ways to address it. That needs to really be starting now. But we're all very busy. I dedicate quite a lot of time to like doing things like that, trying to find ways to pull people together, and hopefully we'll get those solutions, and hopefully Price Forbes will be the name right at the front of that frontier.
There you go. Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm assuming not 100% of things that go into space are insured.
Correct.
So can you give me like a general idea of how many missions are actually insured versus not?
Yeah, the best person to ask about this would be my friend David Wade. But I think the last count, there's something like 11,000 satellites in space. There's a large proportion of those, I think something of the order about 8,000 are Starlink. They're not insured. Yeah. So then then you start thinking about, well, okay, what about government missions? Because governments don't tend to buy insurance. Satellites, commercial satellites in geostationary orbit, most of those will be insured. A lot of the constellations in low Earth orbit aren't insured because if you've got production line bases, it doesn't make sense to insure all the assets.
You're just going to replenish it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They might be insured for launch, and that's an important thing. So, if you're an operator and you're launching a constellation, don't buy insurance for all the assets. Buy insurance against the service levels. So, if you've got redundancy in your network, look at ways what you need to replenish that redundancy, not covering everything. So it's really sort of insuring against loss of service levels, and that could mean if you've got spares on the ground, you don't need to launch them. But what you need to ensure is if you lose however many satellites, you insure the launch service costs. So that you can then get the money.
You have a constellation, but your minimum required to operate the constellation is 80%.
Correct.
And you'd want to insure against a more than 20% loss in the constellation. Okay.
Yeah, and that's another thing. So when you go and speak to the underwriters, they're not taking the first dollar loss. They've got 20% of capacity needs to be lost before.
There's a cushion.
Exactly. So that would be a risk mitigant that we'd use to try and negotiate to bring the price down.
Yeah.
Maybe by 20%, maybe not, but we'd try.
All right. Let's move over into sci-fi tinfoil hat conspiracy corner.
Yeah, I'm all over that.
Yeah? All right.
I love it.
So, do you know anyone, or have you personally seen or been visited by aliens or alien technology, or do you currently have a probe inside your body right now?
Not that I'm aware of.
We got some fans right here. Yeah. He's trying to get me to race him. Can't do it, man. Can't do it. We're recording a podcast. So, do you know anybody with a good story, or have you seen anything?
I've got some great... there's a lot out there, put it that way. I spoke to somebody recently. It's difficult to talk about the things that I've spoken to about, but they were everything to do with Area 51, whether or not they were real. The person I was speaking to was extremely credible, and I think we were probably aware of a lot of the same conspiracy theories. There's lots of different things out there. I don't want to be assassinated for saying the wrong thing. I was go off to room 101. But no,
you got some good juicy bits.
Yeah, there's I don't know. I think there's one. There's a guy called Tim Marshall who wrote a book called The Power of Geography, and I think one of the things he says about the idea of whether or not there's alien forces, he said the university is so big, it's the equivalent of looking at a glass of water and saying whales and dolphins don't exist because I can't see them in a glass of water.
Right.
So, I think there is things out there. I think, we can't limit ourselves to what we know because we don't know what we don't know.
Have they been here? Have those whales been here?
I've heard that these things are a leap in technology that
Our cell phones?
Yeah, that came from somewhere else as well. That's another theory, but who knows? So but then again, there's theories that the Illuminati have got a secret base under Denver Airport. So
I heard that one.
Yeah, I've heard
the train tunnel thing from the Air Force Base.
Yeah.
To the
so
airport.
if I disappear tomorrow, it's because of this podcast.
We won't air it for a while.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
Thank
you have 5 months left.
I've got 3 days to get out of the country.
Oh my gosh. What technology from science fiction would you love to see today? And I have to caveat, because everyone says propulsion or travel, so skip that. What's the next thing that you'd want to see from science fiction come into our current today?
Right, so I'm going to go simpler than that, something which I think is achievable. So since I've started looking at lunar projects, and the idea that you bring something down onto the moon, you've got less, 1/6 of the Earth's gravity. So when you fire the retro rocket, it starts blasting off the rocks into the lunar, above the lunar surface, like high velocity missiles.
Yeah.
I've heard other ways about doing things. The idea that we'd have carriers that come in, they drop a cable down, and they drop things down onto the lunar surface so they don't tip over. The tip over thing is a bit of a slight thing for me. I used to watch a TV program called Robot Wars, and I'm not quite sure because they're those when robots try and smash each other up.
Oh yeah.
Then they flip them over and they right themselves.
Yeah.
Why is that not going on the moon at the moment? So the idea that you drop things down on a cable. So Arthur C. Clarke spoke about the space elevator.
Oh yeah.
And I think the inhibiting factor to doing that on the Earth is the strength of materials and the length of the cable.
Someone called me, and this happened twice, to can I go build a space cable for Earth?
What about doing one on the moon? Okay.
I think that'd be a smarter play than the one on Earth.
I think I looked that up because I thought, wow, I might have struck on some idea here.
Yeah.
So if we had a moon elevator that, there's no infrastructure there at the moment. So, we could have a few practices to get something to work. We could drop it down from one of these carriers to drop the thing down.
That's a great application.
Okay, well, let's work on that. So we're looking to patent that in the next 2 years, I think. So everybody else stay away from that. But I think that would be something, and that would be, I think it's a solution that is certainly solvable.
Yeah.
So and
seems within reach.
It. Yeah.
Seems within reach. Do you have any favorite conspiracies? You just mentioned the cell phone one. Do you have any other favorite conspiracy theories?
No, I try to stay away from all that sort of stuff. I do like the UFOs, though. I mean, I'd love to see the information released on Area 51. That would be amazing. So, but I don't think we ever do. And also, I mean, just off target with that. I mean, I remember doing a history project when I think I was about 12 on JFK. So I'd love to know what the answer was on that. That's intrigued me. But I remember thinking at the time, this information won't be released until I'm about my age now.
Yeah.
And it's just been closed down again. So it's a bit of a shame. I wanted to know the answer. I'd love to know the answer.
I think RFK Jr. wanted to know the answer too.
I think so too. Yeah.
So what technology that's currently being developed or very near future could improve your life?
Definitely, I'd go with the idea of manufacturing in space.
Okay.
So shout out to Space Forge and everything
Josh.
they plan to do. Yeah. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
And also Andrew, who I'm working with quite closely at the moment. But so they've got plans to do manufacturing in space. And I think probably one of the most interesting applications is for the onboarding of pharmaceuticals,
Oh, yeah.
growing protein crystals in space, which will have a massive effect on cancer drugs, and the idea that you could deliver cancer drugs at home rather than having to go into hospital to have intravenous delivery and those sorts of things. So yeah, that's I think probably a really quick fix that'll improve people's lives in a meaningful way in a short period of time. So yeah, and I think there'll be lots more applications that'll come out of that as well.
Printing organs in zero G
Absolutely.
that you can't print here on Earth.
Yeah.
Instead of a icebox from a helicopter, you get a re-entry shuttle capsule, bringing it down and
dropping it from a drone. Well, dropping it from something that's coming down, a drone. It just takes it off to the hospital.
What are your thoughts? Because this has been in the news lately and top of mind. What are your thoughts on orbital data centers?
I love that idea. I did give a shout out to Phil's post yesterday, saying sort of that you were the legendary Trevor Smith strikes again. I think it's a great idea. I mean, I didn't get it at first, but as soon as reading a lot of Phil's posts on LinkedIn and stuff, once I was aware of the fact that you've got constant line of sight with the sun and constant baseload power, makes absolute sense. It's I understand the arguments. So yeah, I see massive benefits. The idea, I don't know the numbers precisely, but if these data centers are going to have to handle as much traffic as expected, they're going to be sapping the grid of power. So it makes absolute sense to me to be doing it in a large scale way.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. I don't think it's a physics problem. I think it's an engineering problem.
Yeah.
And engineering problems we can solve with great minds and thinking about how to build the structures, but it will be a challenge. But I do think there is a future for that. So thanks for introducing me to Philip over at StarCloud.
You're welcome.
Nice. Yeah. So are there any, you see a lot of startups. I'll use this term loosely, snake oil.
Sometimes.
Are there any, you don't need to name the company, but like ideas that are getting funded from space investors that really shouldn't be getting funding right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. I think there's, I do remember one, this goes back to like around about 2000. And I remember seeing it. It was the idea that a rocket was going to come back down to Earth and land on an inflatable balloon. And I just thought,
land on a balloon?
Yeah, it was going to, as it came down, it would shoot out an inflatable and it would land on top of it. And I just thought that just sounds like that's just going to bounce off and hurt somebody. But yeah, I mean, there's some of it. But the thing is, I mean, the people that come out of this, the startups in space, they're engineers. So they go out, and some of the things look wacky on the outside, and then you actually pull it apart, and you go, well, no, this is technically possible. And actually, can we like reduce the risks down or reduce the chances of the this thing working? It's all of those things. It's the skill of the engineers to do. I'm a lawyer, so what do I know? You're asking the wrong person.
Oh, you're a lawyer as an insurance broker.
Yeah, exactly.
So, are you? We're getting close to wrapping up here. Are you a car guy?
My first car was an MG BGT. I was talking to somebody about this morning.
Yeah.
He said, "Are you a petrol head?" I said, "No, not really." He said, "Well, what do you drive at the moment?" I said, "I've got a Jaguar E-Pace." He went, "Oh, they're nice." And I said, "I've had two MGBs. They were my first cars." I said, my favourite car, and this was when I was about 26, was a Volvo P1800S. Do you know what that looks like?
I know what a Volvo is. I don't know what a
P1800S. You've got to look it up. It's a beautiful looking car.
I don't know that I've ever described Volvo as beautiful.
No, you've got to check this out. Styled by Pininfarina.
Oh,
yeah.
That probably is beautiful.
Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful car, and I bought it. It was one of those situations where it was being stored in a railway arch under a tarpaulin, covered in pigeon crap.
Oh wow!
And I picked it up. I bought it for £500. I renovated it to a certain extent. I mean, the engine and the running gear were fine. I got it resprayed. I went away on business. I left it out it had a plastic cover over it. The rain got in underneath. It ruined the paintwork, and I ended up selling it for about £1,000. It absolutely broke my heart getting rid of that car. It was amazing. They go for about $30,000 to $50,000 a piece now.
Wow.
They're beautiful cars.
Wow.
So you have to look that up.
I will. You have to text me that. That's a long name.
I will.
What is the fastest you've been in a land vehicle?
Probably today. I've been in a Porsche GT3.
Oh,
I don't know whether I should think this is probably quicker.
they're pretty similar actually.
Yeah, it was about 3.5.
Oh, was it the GT3 RS?
Yes, I think it was.
Yeah. They're very competitors for sure.
Yeah,
That's a quick car.
yeah. So about the same. I remember being thrown back into the seat, but I will say that the driver of that car was a lot less calm than you. So I felt in safe hands.
Thank you. I grew up racing motorcycles, so I'm comfortable in uncomfortable situations at speed generally, especially if I'm behind the wheel. So if you had a blank check, what vehicle would you go buy?
Oof.
And it doesn't have to be a car. It could be ocean to orbit, anything in between. What vehicle would you go get?
No, it have to be a DB5.
Oh, going old school Aston.
Old school with an ejector seat.
With an ejector
I come and speak to you. I'm sure you could work that out for me.
Yeah, we figured that out.
I've got a few people that I'd take for a ride in if it had an ejector seat.
You have to replace the seat, but it's
I know. But so I think it'd be quite fun getting rid of a few people out of the roof.
They did that in one of the Fast and Furious movies. They ejected them out the side of the car.
Yeah, that I can think of.
Don't ride with Neil if he gets a DB5.
I think of a few candidates for that for sure.
So, do you have any future guest recommendations that might enjoy a mobile podcast studio like this?
Yes, I do. I think you need to get Yuck Chi in this.
Who's that?
Yuck Chi of Charter Space.
Oh, you introduced me to him. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
I think you need to speak to him.
Okay.
He's here.
Oh, yeah, I did. I saw him earlier. Well, great.
And also, there's another guy that really wants to meet you. So, but we'll keep that between us for the time
off camera.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll keep it off camera.
Yeah.
Future episode.
Yeah.
Neil, it's been. We tried to do this like a year and a half ago. Like, we should do a podcast together.
Yep.
And we're going to do it in a boring studio. And then I started this thing, and I'm like, I got to get Neil in.
You haven't got a helicopter license, have you?
No, I don't.
Okay, we need to do that.
I flew in one though.
I've not been in a helicopter
Only
yet.
done one. They're a little freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 hours engineering maintenance for 1 hour in flight. It's expensive. Anyway.
And they're death traps.
Thank you so much. What a treat.
Neil,
Pleasure to see you again.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thanks for watching Full Burn. See you next time.